Hello, this is Logan's Movie Reviews, and today we are talking about Motherless Brooklyn, directed and starring Edward Norton. And who else is in this movie?
Bruce Willis, you have William Dafoe, you have Alec Baldwin, and you have the very beautiful and luscious Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
However you say her name.
She's a tremendous actress. She did a movie a few years ago called Belle, where she played a slave who pretended to be white. Tremendous movie. Tremendous actress.
Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Yes.
I think that's how you say it.
Yes. Edward Norton always has a beautiful leading lady. Whether it was Ariel Dawson, Gugu, it just doesn't matter. He always has the beautiful leading lady.
Yeah, so this is all his effort. It's a passion project of his.
Well, anything Edward Norton's in is good. He's had many more good movies than bad movies. He's had a tremendous career. And also, Michael K. Williams, who, once again, anytime this brother gets on the screen, he steals it with his presence. He was tremendous in this movie as the Miles Davis-like character.
You're right. He steals every movie.
Yeah.
There was Bruce Willis. He looked like he was on for a day of shooting.
Nobody in this film that is a known name got paid what they normally get paid. I think they all went for minimum screen actor rates just to support Edward Norton in this project. This was an independent film, which is crazy considering the star power you have in this movie.
And Bruce Willis, he doesn't usually do that, especially. I heard that he charged, for one day of shooting, he charged Sylvester Stallone $1 million.
I think Bruce and Edward are friends. These are all his friends that did this movie, so that's why he waived his usual fees. None of these guys got paid what they normally got paid. They were supporting Edward Norton. They were behind this project, and this is a great movie, and based on 1950s New York City, Brooklyn, and Harlem, and the character played by Alec Baldwin is based on a real-life character that created and built New York in Robert Moses Randolph being a play on on the real Robert Moses.
Was Robert Moses a dick like this, and that he was taking over black neighborhoods? And
he was worse. The only thing is he didn't in real life he didn't have a black daughter, but yes, he built it to profit for himself and to separate blacks from whites. In his own crazy. Yeah, he was. There's a book. I have to look it up. There's a book on a real great biography. I remember when I was in college, people was telling me, professors were telling me to go get it. I forgot the name of it, but it's based on Robert Moses and the way he built New York and his rise to fame. And he was the most powerful man in New York. He was the New York's equivalent of J. Edgar Hoover. You know how J. Edgar Hoover was the most powerful man in the United States as head of the FBI? Well, Robert Moses was the most powerful man in New York in charge of real estate, and he was the most powerful man throughout his tenure in New York City.
Kind of true to the story, he doesn't get brought down at the end of this movie. It's only his, like the guy he has installed as governor who he ends up letting get busted. But
Robert Moses in real life, if I'm not mistaken, he ruled till he either died or retired.
Yeah, so nothing happened to him. Too powerful.
Nope.
We can jump right in unless you want to do any background on this movie.
No, go straight into the movie.
So this is set sometime in the 50s, New York City, and we have Edward Norton who plays Lionel, and he works at a detective agency alongside Gilbert Coney, played by Ethan Suplee.
Talk about the fat guy, right? That was his partner in American History X.
That's
Remember
right.
The fat guy? Yeah, same fat. And he was also the fat guy in John Q. That was the security guard that helped Denzel Washington. Ethan has had a lot of great roles as a supporting actor, and he has that sympathetic face, so he's perfect. And even in American History X, he was like the lovable Nazi.
Yeah, he was a little bit misguided. Yeah.
Yeah. He's tremendous. You also had the great Bobby Cannavale, who plays one of the.
He's great.
Yeah, he's great in everything. You talk about somebody who always steals a movie. He is tremendous. Anything he's in, he is tremendous. I love that guy. He was great in Mr. Robot, and he was great in Boardwalk Empire. He was a fucking asshole in Boardwalk Empire. He played a rival of Lucky Luciano, who slept with Lucky's woman.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, and I remember in that show he would like to get fucked in the ass or something. I don't know. It was like he had some weird.
Yes. Oh, you remember? Yes. And he's got that face where he's got to play a bad guy, even though in this movie he's really not a bad guy. He's sympathetic towards.
Well, he has a heel turn.
He does, but it's not his normal. It's not his normal heelish ways. He's doing it for a buck.
Bruce Willis, his character is doing the same thing. He's not doing it for noble causes.
Oh, which Lionel thought he was. Lionel,
right?
Because he idolized Bruce Willis' character because that was his mentor.
Right. Well, they go into the backstory of what happened. Was these guys were all orphans, and Tony took them under his wing, and even stopped the nuns from beating on him. So he was very. I mean, that basically was his father figure for the rest of his life.
By the way, you have to mention that Edward Norton plays Lionel, who has Tourette syndrome.
Right. So he's constantly blurting out random stuff that makes people either angry or afraid, except for what's her name? Lauren? What's her name in this?
No, he does that, and he's like apologizing. She's like, "Don't worry about it." I think she picks it up right away.
She doesn't.
She picks it up right away. She doesn't judge him. Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. Is that it puts everyone off except her.
And Michael doesn't put off Michael K. Williams' character, Trumpet Man. He's like, "Look, you like me. You got a lot of things going on in your head. Don't worry about it." He's such a great fucking actor, that guy. But Edward Norton, real quick, he developed his character by watching videotapes of old NBA games with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who was a star basketball player at LSU in the late 80s and in the NBA in the early to mid 90s until he was blackballed from the league. He was the first athlete to protest the national anthem. He would sit down and pray. So he was a Muslim. He would pray while the national anthem was going on. He was the first to do that, and he was blackballed. Well, Edward Norton, when he was doing his press runs for the movie, said that's how he learned. That's how he developed his character, by watching Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who is the most famous man afflicted with this disease, Tourette syndrome. When Abdul-Rauf would be at the free throw line, his head would bob up and down, and he'd have nervous tics, and he would go into a routine, which helped him because he set the record for most consecutive free throws ever made in NBA history, because he would have a routine, which you see Edward Norton throughout this movie. He have a certain routine, like when the girl asks for light, and he's like, it doesn't feel right. He keeps blowing it out.
Right. So their boss, Frank Minna, played by Bruce Willis, he's meeting some people. He's very vague to his two underlings here. This is Gilbert and Lionel. They're shadowing him while he goes in on a deal, right. And they're listening in on a phone and they can hear what's going on in the room. I don't know if he has a wire. I don't know how they can hear what they're talking about. I think it's on a phone.
I think it's on a phone. Yeah.
Yeah, he calls them and leaves the phone so they can hear, and they're talking about some kind of information. They're asking for the originals. They start struggling, and all of a sudden, they grab him, they kidnap Frank, and they take him to, they say, take us to the original, and they basically are torturing him, beating him up. He takes them on this wild goose chase, and eventually they just throw him onto the ground while they're being chased by these two. These thugs throw Frank on the ground and shoot him, And as they're taking him to the hospital, he gives him some information. He says some things that don't make much sense in the beginning. But this guy, he has the power, along with his Tourette syndrome, to remember everything. So he's got like a photographic mind. Anything that's told to him, he remembers it all. By the way, do you know that chick from Taxi has this disease or whatever? This disease, this skill.
Are you talking about what was her name? The old
redhead.
chick in Taxi. You talking about the one with the big titties and ass from back in the day? What was her name?
The redhead.
The only girl.
Mary Lou Henner, whatever. I forget.
Oh yeah, she was a sexy broad. Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, John Travolta used to date her back then. Yeah, I didn't know she had that.
Yeah, she remembers everything. That must be fucking weird. So he has this thing. He's taken in all this information. He still doesn't know what the fuck's going on, but turns out Bruce Willis dies, gives him one clue. He's able to piece together certain things. He gets his hat, he puts it on, he takes his jacket, he reaches in the pocket, he finds a book of matches.
Yeah, that's the book of matches he uses when the blonde chick at the bar asks for a light. That's the same book of matches, right?
Right. And he checks that out because it has like the name of a bar.
In Harlem.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's piecing together a few words he heard on the phone call. He realizes that whatever Frank found, it involved Laura Rose, who's played by Gugu Mubadala, and a young woman also this woman is half black, you can tell, but nobody knows like anything else about her. She's kind of working for Gabby Horowitz, played by Cherry Jones, another great actress in this.
She has had a phenomenal career on Broadway. She's one of the greats, the all-time great Broadway actresses, Cherry Jones. You rarely see her in a movie, so when she's in a movie, you see how great of an actress she is. Most of her career has been on Broadway.
Right. So Gabby and Laura are fighting this gentrification in the city. It's like these, they're fighting against this. What's going on is they're just stealing people's land. They're saying, okay, we're going to relocate you, but then they just, all they do when they set up this relocation office is take applications, and we see later they just throw them in the trash. So they're essentially just uprooting people through eminent domain, giving them almost nothing for their property or to move, and they're like making them homeless so they can make room for new projects, things that benefit the wealthy contractors that are lining the pockets of this big guy played by Alec Baldwin. In any case, this guy's controlling everything. He figures this out just from piecing things together, and he goes to one of the council meetings, and he sees that, because he's following her, and he ends up there, and he sees that both Gabby and Laura are going there, and they instantly start giving shit to this Moses guy. You know, you're a scam. Your land relocations are bullshit. You know, they're just calling him out on his shit. And then you even have Lionel, who steals a reporter's credentials and begins asking questions. And he just gets interrupted by Paul, who's played by William Dafoe, who just starts going on a fucking rant against Moses in the meeting, and they have to have a cop like drag him out. He's actually an architect who is responsible for most of the plans that Brother has implemented. You know, he wants to do things in a much better way that would help everybody in the city, not just the white people. You know, he's sympathetic.
Right.
So he has this grand plan for New York that he keeps trying to give to his brother, and his brother keeps saying, "Oh, I'll look at it." In the end, he just rejects it. But there's this complicated relationship between him and his brother where he's like the guy who really cares about making the city better, and his brother, Randolph, just wants to make money and be powerful. And so they're constantly fighting. So he's fighting him in City Hall too. And so he begs Lionel, who's pretending to be a reporter, to expose whatever Frank had, and it's weird because he's the one who reveals it later in the movie. Like, he's like, oh, the whole thing about Randolph having this kid with a black lady who he may or may not have raped.
It sounded like rape to me. It sounded like he just took that shit.
Yeah. Or she just didn't resist, because she knew who he was.
And her being black and him being the most powerful man in New York, who's going to believe her? Right.
Right. And it's funny because this kind of thing happened with an ambassador, as I recall, from France, and a black woman in a hotel room not too long ago, maybe like 10 years ago. I just remember it was like...
I remember, right. Yeah, he was a diplomat.
Yeah, and he was like drunk and he just fucking raped her.
I don't think anything would have happened because he had diplomatic immunity. They could do whatever the fuck they want.
Right. But he had to go through a lot of shit over it, but he didn't end up getting charged, and I think she ended up dropping the case because they probably paid her off.
They paid her off, but I believe that ambassador resigned and went back to France.
Right. He didn't. It fucked him up politically, but still, got a slap on the wrist. Ultimately, he should have gone to jail.
Well, how often does somebody with diplomatic immunity in the United States go to jail? I don't think there's been a case yet.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah. But he should have gone to jail in France. You know what I mean? But they're a little looser over there. Look what they did with Roman Polanski. They sexually.
Yeah, he's been on the lab for 41 years. Yeah. Sounds
So this I think they probably lifted that from this episode, for this movie, because it sound like the same kind of story. Like he just kind of lusted after this chambermaid. So he ended up impregnating her and denying it. When the woman who was impregnated came making a scene, they were both there with their father.
Paul tells Lionel that he realized by looking at both Moses and the woman that the woman was telling the truth and that Moses was lying. And he, from that point on, made sure to take care of that woman. And Paul raised as his own daughter.
Oh, he did raise her?
Not in the sense of living with her, but financially took care of her.
And she seemed to always think that Paul was her father.
Yes, he was always in her life.
Okay.
He helped pay her through college, law school, everything. It was Paul that took care of her financially.
And what happened to her mother? Did she die?
I'm sure she lived with her mother, but it was Paul that was paying for everything. He took care of her and her mother.
And her mother never told her, I guess, what the situation was. Probably
I don't even think her mother told her that Paul was the father. I think she assumed it because he was always there. And she looking at her skin, because remember she tells Lionel, look at my skin, look at the picture of Paul and the dark-skinned man from The Wire, who was her uncle. I think that was her sister's brother. And
we think that's her father, like as the audience, we think
everybody
the black
assumes that, but Lionel, but she tells Lionel, look at his complexion and look at my complexion and look at the other man, which was Paul in the picture.
Okay, so this is background here, but anyway, so Frank's widow, Julia, gives the agency over to Tony, who we find out later she's fucking.
Bobby Cannavale, yeah.
Tony, in this, when he hears about there might be some shit that is on Randolph, he's like, hey, how can we make money at this? While Lionel is just like, I just want to find out who killed Frank. I don't really give a shit about the money. You can tell that Tony already wants to exploit this. He doesn't mention the fact that he's already working for Randolph, keeping tabs on Lionel, reporting back to Randolph, and Randolph knows everything that's kind of going on. Lionel's following around and starts kind of becoming friends with and possibly a love interest of Laura, because she sees that he's taken an interest as a reporter in this story, and she's also fighting this situation, so she wants him to report on what they're doing in the housing. So she takes him to the club where Frank was looking into, and they dance, and her father gets really pissed off. This is who we think is her father, played by Robert Wisdom. He's assuming that Lionel's one of Randolph's men. So then he has his men beat up Lionel unconscious, and that's when he gets picked up and helped by a trumpet player at the club, played by Michael K. Williams. He basically rescues him, lets him stay at his apartment, and nurses him back to health. And Lionel continues researching, and he discovers that Paul is actually Moses' brother, and he also, that Lieberman, who was installed as, is it the governor?
Governor Lieberman, yes.
Yeah, that he's actually swindling Moses by taking kickbacks. Like he owns the company that he's granting contracts to under Randolph, under his nose, embezzling his money. He also realizes that this, like I said before, the housing relocation programs are total scams, because he goes in there, he sees her take an application, and then what she does is she puts it in a box, and then at the end of the night she just dumps everything in the dumpster. He goes in the dumpster to see and he tries to steal them as evidence, and the two goons who killed Frank.
They beat him up again.
Then you get Lionel. He gets a call from Laura's father, and he realizes that, like, okay, I realize you're not working for Moses, and I know you're working for Frank. And he's like, I got information for you. So he says, come to the club. But when he gets to the club, Laura's father, her supposed father, is dead. And that's the guy played by Wisdom.
Robert Wisdom was on The Wire. He played the chief of police that tried to legalize drugs on The Wire. Tremendous actor, Robert Wisdom. Lionel discovers that he couldn't have killed himself.
Right. He had a bum arm, and the killers put the gun in the bum arm. So, bad idea. But even then, the cops don't want to investigate it, which was typical back then. They would just accept at face value any kind of suicide. Meanwhile, if this was a white guy, they would have done a lot more investigation, safe to say. They rule it a suicide, and even his daughter believes that it's a suicide until she's told by Lionel, and he's just like, listen, this is the deal. He had information. Frank had information. There's some information on Moses that he's killing people about, and we need to find what it is and expose it. And she doesn't really know, although she tells him that Uncle Paul is her real father, or she thinks this, but they never actually officially told her. And Lionel then goes to Paul and tells him that he has information. He suspects it's somehow trouble for Moses, and he's actually angry at Paul for putting Laura's life in danger. And Paul says that he didn't do that, but that Frank and Laura's father had the idea to get more money out of Randolph's goons, and he actually warned them and told them not to do that. And that's why they ended up going after and killing what we thought was Laura's father.
Which was really her uncle, not her father, right.
He begs Lionel, go out and find evidence. He doesn't have any proof.
He doesn't have proof. Lionel went and got the proof.
So Randolph's goons, they grab Lionel off the street. They force him to meet with Moses. Moses propositions him, says, hey, join my organization. I think you're, he realizes that he's probably a good guy to have on his side because he's a good investigator and he never forgets anything. And he's even willing to overlook his affliction. He doesn't even really get put off by it, interestingly. So he's ready to take him on his team, and he says, stop snooping on me. I'll give you 24 hours to decide. Lionel eventually puts the pieces together, realizes that inside Frank's hat is the key to the safe deposit box with all the information.
And he goes to Penn Station. This is great cinematography. I love how they captured 1950s New York. I am a stickler. We're both New Yorkers. I am a stickler for the way they have the subways looking, and it was great. Early in the movie, Laura Gugu goes into the subway, and they have up above IND station. Back in the 1950s, the subways were split into two different organizations. The independent line, the IND, which was the B, the D, the A, the C. They even had a K train back then. And then you had the IRT, which was the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6. Well, she walks into the IND. It just doesn't say subway, which is attention to detail by Edward Norton. He's a native New Yorker, too, so he would know. Also, Penn Station back in the 1950s was on the outside, not inside. And look what they did. They had Penn Station on the outside. The trains, the New Jersey Transit and Amtrak, used to run on outside tracks on 34th Street, not inside like today. Great attention to detail by Edward Norton. And when he goes to Penn Station, he goes to the lockers that they used to have. And he has the key. He opens up, and he finds the proof that he's looking for.
Also, there's a deed that gives him a piece of property now given to him from Frank. What's in there is Laura's birth certificate.
Yes, by Paul forging Moses' signature.
Right. And so in many ways, like, it's still not proof because the other guy could just say, hey, that was a forgery. But it's enough that it's going to make Randolph look pretty bad. So
yes.
It is, and he is concerned about it. Obviously, he's already killed a couple people who have tried to blackmail him about it. What happens is Lionel realizes, hey, this guy's too powerful. I really can't do much. All I can do is maybe protect Laura from being killed. Right after he finds this deposit box, he randomly runs into Tony, who's actually been following him. And they go out to have a drink. And Tony just basically tells him straight up, look, I'm working for Randolph. I think you should just take his deal because they already killed Laura. That's kind of what he says. And that's when he throws hot water in Tony's face and then runs to save her. And right before she's about to walk into her death, he heads her off. And they escape the two goons.
Man, I loved it. The big one where they're going up the fire escape, and this was what I loved about Edward Norton's direction and screenplay. Usually it's the man saving the woman, especially as a white man and a black woman, right? Usually it's the white man saving the black woman. No, it's the other way around. She saved his life because, this guy's much bigger by what she wound up throwing things at him, and she winds up throwing a plant at him. The guy lets go and falls to his death. I love it.
Yeah, this is great shooting here. I think this is his first time directing, right?
Yeah, it's his directorial debut. Yes.
Yeah, and he did a great job with this and just the way it was shot. And then she just knocks him on the head while he's hanging, and he breaks his grip, and he falls to his death. And that's the end of him.
Yes. That was a great shot. The way he fell, it looked very realistic, like he was actually falling to his death.
He also, when he's hanging out with her in her apartment for the night after her surrogate father, her uncle, was killed, he tells her that he's never had sex because of his Tourette syndrome. Mm-hmm. And I thought she was about to fuck him there, but maybe in the sequel. But they definitely end up together, right? You think?
Yeah, they're together. You could tell they're together when the movie ends.
They kill the big guy, but then he gets into a struggle on the roof with the smaller goon, and it's about to be shot by him when who comes to the rescue? The trumpet player, played by Michael K. Williams. He saves Lionel's life, and he is asked by Lionel to drive Laura to
a safe house.
And that's the property that Frank left him. And he goes and talks to Randolph one final time, makes a deal with him. He realizes this guy's too powerful. All I can do is not blackmail him for money, but just blackmail him to not kill Laura.
His daughter.
And he kind of admires Lionel, I'm talking about Randolph, for this, because he's not looking for money. I think he respects his approach, And so he agrees, and he also tells him that I'm going to expose your governor for being corrupt, and you can't do anything about it. And he's like, fine, I don't care. And so the next day he mails all this information about the governor's corruption to the press.
I think a reporter from New York Times gets it, and they run the story, and that's the end of Governor Lieberman.
But, of course, the Teflon Don, Randolph, is still free to continue his gentrification. I don't think he even gets spared the neighborhood that Laura's in. I think that they lose that battle.
He continues to do as he pleases.
So it's no big fairy tale ending here where they bring down the big guy. It's more realistic.
According to Edward Norton, he was heavily influenced by L.A. Confidential. It was a crime noir. And he got the rights to this movie 20 years ago. I think in 99, 2000. I think he was filming American History X at the time. And he ran into this book, and he contacted the writer. And he went ahead and got the rights to it. And he's been trying to get this made for 20 years till he finally got it done last year.
Right. So it was a labor of love for him. And it rivals like Tarantino's, he was managed to make Hollywood look like, the Hollywood of the past. I think this is every bit as good as that, probably with a much lower budget.
With a much lower budget. And what I love also is the cinematography. You could tell Edward Norton was heavily influenced by Spike Lee. Spike Lee directed him in 25th Hour because the music and the cinematography very reminiscent of Spike Lee in his works.
Right, and the reason for the title is because Frank used to call him Motherless Brooklyn as a nickname.
Right,
and
because they didn't know who his mother was, and he was from Brooklyn.
Yeah, so eventually he just took to calling him Brooklyn. That was his nickname in the group. So I don't know what actually occurred with Tony, whether he's still in the agency. We don't really get to see if he's still working for them or if he's striking out on his own. But I guess, like you said, it's safe to say that he's getting married with Laura.
Yeah. It probably works for that woman played by Cherry Jones.
So he's probably just working with her, trying to fight this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know if it got considered for any awards, but I certainly thought the acting was great, especially by Ed Norton.
This year's Academy Awards was considered the worst field of nominations in the Academy's history. And it was horrible. It was just horrible. A lot of great movies like Motherless Brooklyn, like Dolomite, like Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, those movies weren't considered for awards even though they were all highly and critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
So,
Uncut Gems was unbelievable. Did you see it?
Well, we'll be talking about Uncut Gems next week because while I'm on lockdown, I'll be watching that. So, yes, and I'll be watching Uncut Gems because you and everybody else has told me this is Adam Sandler in a Pacino-like role. That's how great he was. We'll be
unbelievable.
And they talk about how great Kevin Garnett was playing himself. So I gotta watch this movie.
Yeah, he is. All right. Well, this movie though, it did more. I think it did more. It made more than it broke even. It cost him $26 million to make.
How much did it make at the box office?
24. So he lost a couple million.
He'll make it back with video sales and
international.
And whatever television deal, streaming service it goes to. So it'll more than break even. Yeah,
it won some lower level awards for cinematography, adapted screenplay. So I think a lot of critics liked it. I can't really see any bad reviews here.
It's going to set up Edward Norton to direct more projects because people saw how great this movie was, and now he's no longer is he just an actor. He's going to be considered a writer and a director, and he'll get to direct other great movies. I'm glad for that. Edward Norton is one of my 5 favorite actors of the last 20 years. I love Edward Norton. Everything he's in, he's tremendous. And
I thought he was good in The Hulk.
I loved him as Bruce Banner. I loved him or David Banner.
Yeah, I think he was the best one yet.
Yeah, I loved him as Bruce Banner. He was my favorite Hulk out of all of them, other than Bixby. Other than Bill Bixby, he was my favorite Hulk. He was very kind of. He might have studied Bixby in the way he played.
He did.
Bruce,
remember,
because
he made him a fugitive. That was his doing.
That's right. And
because he
the
knew
way
that's
he played,
the formula.
And the way he played Banner was very similar to Bixby. While Eric Bana, he was horrible in the first Hulk.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they haven't really given a chance to do a solo movie for Mark Ruffalo, but he's pretty good too. But they don't do much with him.
He's a tremendous actor. He's been wasted as the Hulk. Just wasted.
Because they don't do a movie.
Hey, he's collected big checks on all these movies, but they haven't done a Hulk movie. It's been over. Damn. Edward Norton did the Hulk back in what, 2007, 2008? It's been over 10 years. Come on now. It's
hard to do. I think the Hulk, the show showed you the formula. Do it as a fugitive type movie. Don't try to do it like the comic book. Do it like the TV show. It'll get more like as and they should just do another show, really, I think. And I think we will see that sooner or later.
We need a reprise because, come on, man. There's some horrible superhero shows on television. Batwoman? Get the fuck out of here, man. Batwoman? Are you kidding me?
Even Supergirl.
Oh, God. Oh, come on. Bring back the Hulk.
Are they really going to do a black Superman with Michael B. Jordan? I'm still hearing that.
He doesn't have the time for it.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
He's got so many projects
too big
lined
for it.
up. He doesn't have the time for it. He does. I don't see him playing Superman. He doesn't have the time for it.
You don't need to. Well, in any case, this movie was fun, man. And so you want to talk about the Uncut Gems next week?
We're definitely doing Uncut Gems next week, and that'll be our next movie. I got the Fire Stick in front of me, so I'll be watching that tonight. Set up for next week.
All right, man. So, and so I can get ready. What do you think our next TV show situation is going to be?
There's two I'm considering. The TV series Spencer for Hire. On Netflix, you have Spencer Confidential starring Mark Wahlberg. Well,
is that a takeoff on the show?
It's a takeoff on the book and the show. The book's written by Robert B. Parker. Spencer, a detective, Boston detective. Spencer Confidential is taken off for that, and Spencer for Hire was taken off the books. Robert Urich, the late great Robert Urich played Spencer, and the great Avery Brooks, who played the principal in American History X, played Hawk. Winston Duke plays Hawk in the movie on Netflix. Mark Wahlberg plays Spencer in the movie. Well, we're going either Spencer for Hire the series or Midnight Caller the series. You just got to – it's not on any streaming service, so you got to really find these episodes somewhere. I mean, okay. I'm able to find it on some illegal shit I got right in front of me. But you gotta find it somewhere, and we'll do one of those shows. Or if we can't do it, we'll do Uncut Gems next week. Spencer Confidential, which is on Netflix, starring Mark Wahlberg and Winston Duke, the week after, and then we'll do either Spencer for Hire or Midnight Caller. That'll give you time to find these series. I want to do the Midnight Caller episode, where his ex-girlfriend dies of AIDS, played by Kay Lenz from Rich Man, Poor Man, 1 and 2.
Okay, great. All right, man. So we'll be looking at, that's kind of a little look up at our quarantine lineup here, and hope everyone is staying home, staying out of harm's way.
And real quick, I want to shout out what I've been doing. So I've been stuck home, or the only time I leave the apartment is to go bring my girlfriend. Shout out to my lady. She's been working 12 to 16-hour shifts every day at Lenox Hill Hospital, fighting the war against the corona on the front line. So
Yeah.
I did
She's a
a
nurse.
podcast. She's a nurse at Lenox Hill Hospital, and she's also been on the weekends been going to Middletown, New York, to help out there, doing 12-hour shifts out there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So it's a war
shout
zone,
out,
right?
Yeah. I was just there a couple hours ago to bring her lunch. I mean, look, if you're sick, other than the virus, if you got if you got a food poisoning or you hurt your foot, try to self-medicate. Don't go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Stay away from the emergency rooms because you could get sick just waiting in the emergency room because they're coughing and barfing all over the place. She tells me so. Stay away from the hospital, people, if you can. Try to self-medicate at home. I did a podcast last week that'll be up soon with our boy Sky Kid on the 10 greatest matches in WWF history. I'm doing another podcast with our boy Garrett Gonzalez, Double G, on his Fight Game Media website. I just wrote 2 articles on his website, one on Alexis Arguello. The other one will be coming out soon on the greatest super featherweights of all time. Arguello's number 2. Number 1 will be coming out as soon as possibly as soon as tomorrow. So I'm staying busy.
Well, what's that
and I wrote it.
Fight Game Media.
FightGameMedia.com, and on our boy Big D's website, Geekdom 101. I recently wrote an article on the 8-year reign of terror of Adolf Giuliani. And so you could go into my article goes into details of the many crimes he committed. It's the longest article I've ever written. I mean, I just go into detail about how this bastard ran New York City, and he was America's mayor. And last year was finally exposed as the crook he is.
Yeah, my God, and he's being investigated right now.
Yeah,
he'd probably end up in prison.
Asshole. This guy used to be the top cop in the country. Now he's being investigated. The fuck, it's about damn time. He should be investigated for the crimes he committed as mayor of New York.
Absolutely. I mean, he's long list of abuses of African Americans and just terrible policies.
I got that all detailed in an article on BigD'sGeekdom101.com, where you also could catch archives of our boxing and movie programs are also on that website. So I've been staying busy. Are you in New York or D.C.? I read somewhere on Twitter that you said you relocated to D.C. Or were you just joking? Oh, you in D.C. now?
I got out of New York, yeah, because my girl works down here, and we had a place down here, so I'm here because I work remote for my job. So the hell with it.
If you see Trump, smack him for me. By the way, shout out to Dr. Fauci. He just came up with a report. He said over 100,000 people will be dying of this virus. This is the guy Trump hired. He's been honest, while Trump wants everybody to go back to work 2 weeks from tomorrow. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, I heard he said almost 60% of America will get it. I mean, not all of them will die. Only 100,000?
About 100,000 will die, but we're talking, if you're saying 60% of America, that's over 100 million people.
They're going to get it. That's because it's like 1%, right? It's like a 1% death rate. So if everybody gets it, they only 1% die.
Yeah, you're right, because that'll be around the number he's talking about. Yeah, so he's been very factual. He's been very good. While Trump, I don't know where Trump gets his numbers from. The man's working for the Trump administration. He's being honest.
Well, he's trying, I don't know what he's trying to do. I think he thinks this is some kind of hotel deal he can lie his way out of. It's like, dude, this is reality.
It's a reality show, that The Apprentice, that he could lie.
I mean, I really think he thinks he could just, keep lying and lying. After a while, people just, basically, everyone knows they're on their own. Like, the governors are just like, fuck you.
This this will be his downfall, and I want to see his explanation because there's no way in the world the country's going to be reopened 2 weeks from tomorrow. I want to see his justification for going back on his word. I mean, he just keeps putting his foot in his mouth.
He's been exposed, man. Like his great strong economy, right? If it's so strong, why is this thing just like make it?
Yeah, we
go
can't
to the ground.
we can't afford not to go to work. We have to go back to work, or else the economy will die. We'll die before we die. Man, fuck you, man.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that, like, he said the economy is really strong. All it took was just a little pandemic, and now it's fucking in shambles. So it wasn't strong. It was weak.
It's holding up by pins and needles.
Right. Anyway, so, and then I don't know, man. I look at it like this. Is it a coincidence that we have the worst pandemic we've ever had and the worst president? I don't think so.
One goes with the other. It's like
exactly.
it's like crack and AIDS in the 80s. They go together.
Oh man. All right. Well, we'll keep your minds off it otherwise with our reviews. And Silva, you're active. I'm glad you're doing all those reviews. Everyone check out fightgamemedia.com and have a good one, man.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.